Welcome to the Daily Truth Report. I'm your host, Noah, and I am so excited to bring back one of our favorite guests, Bo Polny. Bo, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Noah. Thank you for having me, and love speaking with you. Thank you for the privilege of being on Daily Truth Report. Appreciate it.
It is always a pleasure to have you, and I just wanted to get right into it today because we have a lot to talk about. For anybody who's new, I'll give you a really quick summary. Our guest today is Bo Polny. I know most of you, many of you know him, but he is an analyst of time. He looks at the time cycles of our world and time cycles of financial cycles and time cycles in the Bible and time cycles in the news. And then he tells us where we're at in those cycles. And the reason I'm so excited to have Bo back on is because we had him on early in August last time, about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And at that time, he was telling us to look towards August 24th, look towards September 2nd. And we are right in that area. A lot has already happened. And then we've got a couple big things we're still looking for. So wanted to have Bo back on, break down everything that has happened and break down what's coming next. So Bo, I don't know where you want to start. Last time you were on, you showed us you put together a protractor and you showed us where that's going to lead us in time. And I'd like to do an update on what's happened since we had you on last. If you want to walk us through some of the big things. You told us to watch for some key dates, and sure enough, we had some big things happen.
Right. Last time we were on, I believe it was early August, and the latest thing, and I've been working on this presentation for quite a long time, and I just keep adding to it. And whenever I get anything, prophetically, or when I sleep, or whenever I get images, and then I also listen to other prophets because, it's God's glory. So, it's just, I'm trying to put it all together, put all the pieces for everybody together. And so the latest thing that I got, which was in early August, was the, how the protractor itself directly relates to time and end times, or particularly the next 360 days. So if you go to page 12, you'll see that protractor right there. And so this is what we talked about last time. In our interview, there is 2 critical dates that were coming up, and I said, the 16th, 15th, 16th of August was expected to be an important time point because that lined up with precisely 50 days to the mark when Nixon took the United States off the gold standard. So he basically detached gold, and gold, was just only backed by faith, and the dollar ended up being backed by only faith and confidence, and not gold anymore. Well, lo and behold, what happened on the 15th of August was specifically, in relative to the time out in Saudi Arabia the time relative out in Kabul, it fell, right? So on August 15, 16 time window, precisely to that time window, it was the fall of Kabul. You have to admit, that's rather crazy how it lined up and it landed on precisely that date. It wasn't like a week earlier or something. It was literally 50 years to the mark. So that was, that just kind of shows that the calendar and the timeline we're looking at is important. But probably the most important time point on this protractor would be the 90-degree mark, because 90 degrees would equate to 90 days from May 26th. And if you listen to our prior videos, you'll understand why May 26th was called the center of end times. You can see it up in prior slides, and that's based on the heavenlies. So with August 24th being a tipping point, I didn't know what was supposed to happen. All I knew was that was a date that was supposed to be very important. And lo and behold, Russia and Saudi Arabia signed a military pact. Why is that important? Okay, well, let's just think about this for a minute, Noah. So if Saudi Arabia 48 or 50 years ago signs a contract, a military pact with the United States, aren't they good? Aren't they good? Like, why do you need to sign a military pact with another superpower? So now you have 2 pacts with 2 superpowers? I don't think so. Okay. So I would say that if they sign a military pact with Russia, then I would say the probability is beyond astronomically huge that the military pact with the United States is bye-bye.
So in other words, this is not good. This is that 50 years ago, that was the start of the petrodollar, and that's what made the dollar strong and made America strong. But now what you're telling us is watch out. We are flashing warning signs that all of that strength and buying oil at price in US dollars might be going away.
Well, and that's exactly the point, right? Every single country, you know, out in the Middle East have been numerous, like three, I think, past examples you can go research, but you'll see there's every one of them got invaded by the United States and the countries fell, okay? And they basically were considered terrorists, or, you know, and there's always some reason why you have to go in there. But next thing you know, they devalue their currency, take away 3 zeros off the currency, and the country falls to shambles, right? Every time they try to move away from the US dollar. So now they've got a problem, because every time anyone's ever done that, the US goes in, invades, and man, everything's fixed. You know, the US dollar remains the world reserve currency. But here's a huge problem, right? Never have they had to go against a superpower. So now there's a contract with a superpower, you know, Russia. Are you kidding me, right? So they've got a contract with Russia to protect them. Against who would be the better question, right? So, you know, you saw what you see what's going on out in the Middle East right now. So I'd say Saudi Arabia is shaking. They're a little nervous because what just happened in Afghanistan, right? So they don't want anything to go down in their country. So now, and you know, United States didn't do their job there. They abandoned them. So they're like, well, wait a sec, no one's coming in our country. So now you have a military, you know, a pact signed with Russia, who's now going to protect them, which means that the contract or the pact with the United States is no longer, or they're walking away from it. And so now they're soon enough, don't be surprised, because the patterns all indicate this, right? Goliath, as I've talked about in the prior presentations, is the US dollar, which has, you know, been the supreme currency around the world for, you know, for ever since the petrodollar came into existence. So now if they start accepting, Saudi Arabia, as they start accepting payment in other forms rather than the US dollar, first, that's an act of war. That is an act of war, okay, against the United States. But now the act of war is against Russia or Saudi Arabia, who's protected by Russia.
Right.
So good. So this is going to be interesting. That's all I can tell you. And you know, what do the cycles indicate? Well, we're heading into a new financial system. You know, a kingdom economy. The kingdom economy is economy backed, you know, with precious metals as the essence of the money. So we're heading into something truly spectacular, of gold and silver being, you know, the new monetary instrument. Well, why would gold and silver become a new monetary instrument in the new kingdom economy? Well, how? Because the dollar is not king anymore.
Okay, so Bo, there's a lot going on here, and a lot of this is not good, right? And so as I look at this, and we're going to jump to another slide you have here in just a minute, because your message is, yeah, there's a fall coming. There is some bad times coming, and it's going to be this death to life cycle that we're about to experience. That's a very biblical cycle and very biblical concept. And so your message is, you always said, watch that tipping point on August 24th. And a tipping point means something's about to fall, something's about to topple over. We've got the season of fall starting September 22nd. And so we're in this period of fall and falling, and then out of that comes the rebirth and the life. And so, you know, when I look around, I read people comment stuff online all the time, and they say nothing's happening, there's nothing happening out there. Actually, a lot is happening. You can see it on this protractor. I mean, we just gave away 85 billion worth of military supplies to the enemy. We lost Kabul. We lost it or gave it away. You've got this Russia and Saudi Arabia military pact that was just signed. There is a lot happening, but it's not necessarily good. Bo, do you want to walk us through? I'm going to go up to your other slide. You want to walk us through what you mean by the great fall coming, and where does that leave us?
Sure. Well, this is, remember, the story that we live in, a story created, you know, this is, you know, biblical story that goes back 2,500, well, goes back to creation, and it goes back to the Garden of Eden, you know, with Adam and Eve, when they let in evil into the garden, or, you know, onto the world. So that's how far this whole story goes back. But in essence, what, you know, there's a prophecy by Daniel. And, so you can see that prophecy on page 2, right, it's a little bit page down. And, the prophecy is beyond incredible, because this prophecy holds true, meaning it's been to the mark. Not one step has been missed within this prophecy. And this was prophesied. Daniel spoke to Nebuchadnezzar, interpreting Nebuchadnezzar's dream of 2,500 years ago. And then when Daniel spoke the prophecy, he gave all glory to God. What was the prophecy that God gave Daniel? Well, the prophecy talked about this massive statue and how it describes all kingdoms. So it talked about head, which is Babylon, which is Nebuchadnezzar at the time. Then it talked about then when Babylon would fall, Persia would rise, and then Greece would rise. And then after that, Rome would rise. Like, do you understand all those things happened? Every one of those. This is not like a little event. We're talking kingdoms. We're talking Persia. We're talking Greece, and Alexander the Great. We're talking Rome. All of these things were prophesied by Daniel. Like, holy mackerel, are you kidding me? And then it talks about the rise of the papacy. And also the papacy rises after that when it binds with Rome. It's an amazing prophecy, but every part of it is now complete except the last step of it, and that is the stone. So if you go to page 1 step higher, so what is missing? It's Daniel 2:34, which states, "As you looked, a stone was cut out by no human hand, and it struck the image on its feet of iron and clay and broke them to pieces." In other words, it took down the entire statue, but it was carved out by no human hand. So what does that mean? All the kingdoms are about to fall. Lord's Prayer. What is the Lord's Prayer? Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. I'm going to repeat, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. What does that mean? It means his kingdom is coming. That fall of the statue is the arrival or the starting point of thy kingdom come. And thy will be done is what freaks out evil, because they can't stop it. Thy will be done. Doesn't say thy will maybe will be done. No, thy will be done. So God's kingdom is coming. They can't stop it. They know it's coming. And when the kingdom comes, when the statue falls, that's Goliath right now. When the dollar breaks, when the dollar plunges, everything that they've created starts to fall apart, and they're going to flee. And so evil is going to flee. Now, understand that the fall of the kingdoms isn't the return of Christ. It's just the fall of the kingdoms, because Christ still returns later on. So we're going to have the wheat and the tares on this earth, but we are going to see the rise of God's kingdom like you have never, ever seen before. The latter rain is going to start coming to life, the power. We're going to, again, I've stated before, in last year, I said, this is going to be the greatest Thanksgiving ever in the history of the world. Why? Because this thing, the statue, the image has fallen. With the images falling, God's kingdom, God is starting to rise. The power, the fire is coming alive. And so right now, seeds have been planted, but what's coming is the harvest. And so
go ahead, Bo.
Yeah, so we're at summer right now, like you just put there. So I like the rock coming down. The fall of the giant, the fall of Goliath is the day of God's vengeance for things that have come. For God, people turning away from God and what they've done here on this earth. So that's the day of vengeance, and that's talked about in Isaiah 61. And like you said, people are saying nothing's happening. Yes, you're right. Nothing. Like, they're right and they're wrong. Like you described earlier, yes, there's many things happening right now in the Middle East, a lot of massive changes. But what I still am waiting for, and what you were still waiting for, Noah, and many of your viewers, is still that moment in time that changes things forever. And that would be equivalent to the glory arriving, the day of vengeance. And that would be putting the world on a whole new direction. Equate that to the Red Sea. When the Red Sea closed, that moment when it closed, Israel's on one side, Pharaoh's on the other. The world's it's just over, right? You can never go back. That's the key. You can't go back anymore. And so we're getting, we haven't hit that point yet where everything changes so dramatically that you can never go back. And so when the world gets put on this new timeline, which is, I believe, going to happen here really shortly, because we're stepping into a very important time point with relation to this September 6th. I think in an earlier presentation, you said September 2nd, actually September 6th. September 6th is Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is the start of the new year. So let me explain that to your viewers. So there's also a day called Elul 29. Elul 29, if you listen to Jonathan Cahn, will be equivalent to December 31. So it's the last day of the year. Last day of the year, December 31. Then what comes after December 31 is January 1. January 1 biblically would be September 6th, Rosh Hashanah. So trying to make that, something that people can understand. But as we get into Rosh Hashanah itself, Rosh Hashanah now starts the new year, which is basically 50 years. It's a jubilee year. So we are supposed to, so they're right there. You'll see the Elul 29 date, and that we equate to December 31, and then Rosh Hashanah starts, the next day. So this entire jubilee cycle starts September 6th and doesn't end until next September 29th, September 25th of 2022.
Yeah, and
so that's the entire year.
Sure. So, Bo, these dates, Elul 29, these are the lunar calendar. What the biblical calendar is based on. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. So you'll see that on Elul 29, you'll see major events have happened on Elul 29. Historically going years backwards. So, it's been interesting, but nothing really happened in 2015. And because it was a year of rest. So there's 2 years of rest in the Bible. One is the seventh cycle, the 7th year. So that's a year of rest. And then the second one is the 50th year, which is a year of Jubilee. So we're heading into year of Jubilee. So we are starting a year of Jubilee on the 6th of September into the 7th, based on based on sunset in Israel. So it's the Jubilee starts. Will something huge happen? Well, the world is waiting for something intense to happen. If we go back to the protractor, I think the Elul cycle, I believe, is more tied in with the stock markets events into next year, 2022, being really horrible. But the protractor itself more directly relates to the US dollar and the fall of the United States. So, right on page 1, we say that the fall and fall. The United States needs to fall because it's all tied in with the statue. So United States, by it falling, when people are not, and how do you take down the United States? Well, you take down its dollar, right? You take
Bo,
down.
That sounds
take
really
down the
scary.
dollar, right?
So tell everybody what's the good news in that news, because that sounds like a big problem.
It does sound like a big problem because the United States has turned away from God. Look what's going on in the churches. Look what's going on in the schools. We've turned to communism is really what's happening, particularly with what's happened since last November.
That's
so
right.
We've literally turned away from God. So God needs, so the fall of the United States is necessary, but for the Christians who understand what resurrection is, right? It's death. What happens after death? If you're a Christian, there's no such thing as death, right? Death to
life.
Yeah,
right. And it really does feel like every system right now, and you just said it, from the education system to government to everything, it's all gone rotten. It all needs to be, we need different, and look at all these government agencies and everything has just, it's turned evil, and it needs to be wiped out and need to start over.
Correct. So I think the best analogy, like I just said, it's if this is going to be biblical, which it is, everything I talk about is, for the glory of God, because this is what it is. We're in biblical times. So if we're in biblical times, it means that we must fall, we must die, and then be reborn.
And I love these
life.
green arrows. I love these green arrows on the left, though. I mean, this is where it starts to get good. When you're in the tipping point, it might feel like everything's not doing
prophecy, Noah, the prophecy is going to, it says, prophetically, it's not my prophecy. I think it was Lois Vogel Sharp or Amanda, but the prophecy is that it's going to look like God abandoned us.
And it feels that way right now, doesn't it?
Well, wait till we fall. And then chaos erupts. Okay. It's going to look like God abandoned us. But we have to remember that statue of Daniel stands of 2,500 year prophecy. So that statue, that prophecy was written from the end to the beginning. So it was written backwards to the beginning. So when he gave the prophecy, that was the beginning, but it was already written from the end. So don't think that God's going to abandon the United States or abandon the world or abandon his church. Absolutely not. But he has to wake people up. And people are so wrapped up in this world. They're so wrapped up in the world that they can't see the truth anymore, if that makes sense. Right. They've turned away. It was, if you go back, hundreds of years, thousands of years, in the time of Israel, people would worship God, daily. It was just so powerful. Not that I lived then, but you read the Bible, you look at stories. There was a lot of faith years ago, and now it's just completely different. So by us turning away, we've turned away from God. So now he needs to shake us up. And the best way to shake people up is to knock them down and knock the country down, make it look like there's really no hope. So if you think it looks better now, it's going to get worse, unfortunately. But it's all for God's glory, because then he gets to those that choose to realize that the fall was necessary for him to raise you up. Well, then the country will be raised back up. And so that's why you look at the Jubilee. So it's a year of cleansing. It's a year of starting over, but it's a year of wiping out and starting fresh again, or starting fresh. And that's where the new era, comes online. So September 6th starts the new year, starts the Jubilee year, right? And that's going to progress us all the way into next September. But there's a cycle in between that. And that's what I'm showing you here on page 12. That cycle in between that starts on September 6th. And since August, this is really important to think about the pattern that we're looking at there, and then the event. So if on August 24th, that was tipping point. What was tipping point? It was a new contract, Saudi Arabia and Russia stepping away from the US Saudi Arabia contract. If that was the event, that means that 90 degrees, event is going to be a very big event. It leads into something 90 days later. Does that make sense? So if that was tipping point, then what's tipping? Well, it's the dollar, right? If the dollar, it's Goliath, is tipping, which means he would have fallen flat on his face by November 22nd at 90 days or 90 degrees. And by another 90 degrees, which would be all the way 270 days from May 26th, so that would be February 20th, 2022. February 20th means that the dollar is 180 degrees from August 24th, which means it's totally upside down already, which means that probably, my interpretation means that not only is the dollar now fallen, means the bond market is blown up too.
Okay, right.
So I would equate this protractor, now that we're seeing what the tipping point was the dollar, I would equate this protractor to what the dollar is doing. But when the dollar is doing that, what is the opposite to the dollar? Noah, what's opposite the dollar? There's only one instrument which is directly opposite the dollar. God's money.
Gold and silver.
Gold and silver. So as the dollar, Goliath is falling and blowing apart and falling on its face and then going upside down, expect God's money to be doing the exact opposite. And so please click to page 7, and this will explain what's going on. Because what's happening is when Goliath falls, the kingdom economy comes alive.
And you've been telling us this for a long time, Bo. All I can tell people is this is what Bo keeps telling us. Get ready.
Right. And, so Bitcoin's front running everything. Not that Bitcoin is not God's money, but people know something's up. Okay. So they've created Bitcoin, and now people are starting to move into it. So that's why it's no longer $1. It's now 50,000 or just under $50,000. It's not $1 anymore. Do you realize Bitcoin started under $1?
I do. Yep.
Okay. So why is it 50? And they've been telling us Bitcoin is, I'm not promoting Bitcoin. I'm just saying they've been telling us Bitcoin is worthless. It's a scam, on and on and on. It's died how many times? The Bitcoin graveyard is died it's died like 1,000 times. But it's the only monetary instrument that has died 500 times, but is worth $50,000 today.
Right.
Like, what a joke. Are you kidding me? But it's all news, because it's what they're spewing out of their mouth is fake news, because they want people not to be involved in it. I'm not telling you get involved in Bitcoin. I'm telling you that it's the new monetary system that's coming online. It's been front running gold and silver. I'm repeating, the cryptocurrency cycle has been front running gold and silver. They don't want gold and silver to go up, but what's coming is the kingdom economy. And what did I say earlier, Noah? Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. They can't stop what's about to happen. When we step into September and the Jubilee, and then we progress into the end of this year, into next year, they're not going to be able to stop God's will, because God's will be done. And when God's will be done, we're in the kingdom economy, and God's kingdom is rising with his money. So God's kingdom will rise with gold and silver, because now gold and silver begin to front run Bitcoin. They're finally going to play a game of catch up, and that's what the cycles are indicating. My point being is that, but both ultimately, or actually all three of those, are ultimately going to be the monetary system in the new kingdom economy. It's just that longer term, if you're buying Bitcoin, you're not, I don't care what, I don't want to give a financial advice. Okay. It's not my deal here to get financial advice. I'm saying but I personally, if I only had Bitcoin and not God's money, I wouldn't sleep at night. Okay. So because God's money is ultimately the ultimate go-to. But in the shorter term, next few years, absolutely, if there's going to be a monetary transition and Bitcoin's front running everything with the alternate cryptocurrencies, heck, why would you not want to be a part of that? I do. That's my point. But the point is that on this slide here, it says coming, there will be a time when the current or the currency system we know will totally fail. Those are not my words. Okay. That was prophetic. That was spoken by a prophet. So the money system, will totally fail. So the paper system you have in your bank, you got a bunch of zeros, you get monthly statements, and boy, I got lots of zeros. Yeah, lots of zeros on paper. That's about all you got.
Well, you've been telling us that for a long time, Bo. And I think when you first started coming on our show, Bitcoin was $10,000 and now it's 50. And again, you say it, and I want to reiterate, you're not here to give financial advice, but you watch these cycles and you just tell us what you're seeing in the cycles. And you've been telling us that you probably want to get some Bitcoin, you probably want to get some gold, and you probably want to get some silver. And so far, anybody who's been on that ride with you is pretty happy right now, because like I said, then you started a lot lower than 10,000, but when you started talking to us, it was probably around 10,000, and now it's sitting at 50 and just feels like it wants to go crazy, and we're all waiting. Everything kind of feels like we're just in the tipping point. Everything's just waiting to either fall over or explode upwards. And and that's why I wanted to have you on today, because it just feels like that critical time point. In fact, I want to jump back to that September 6th date, Bo. I don't want to lose track of that before we move on. I remember last year you kept telling everybody, so September 6th is Rosh Hashanah, and that's the start of the new year. We see it on that chart there. I remember you said last year, watch that date. I think it was September 18th last year. You said something big is looking like it's going to happen. This is a key biblical date. And sure enough, that was when Ginsburg died last year. And of course, everyone knows how important that was. So September 6th is 2 days away. It's Monday. It's actually Labor Day. And I know you've already said a few things about it, Bo, but are you expecting something big on that date?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I don't know what's could happen or should happen on that date. All I care about, to be honest with you, is that it's the start of the Jubilee year. Okay, that's what matters to me. That literally is the starting point for these amazing things that are going to happen here into November. So, what are the amazing things that will happen into November? I have no idea. You're right. Last year, I was using the cycle at that time that we were overlaying on was the Noah cycle, and so at 150 days from oil going to zero, or negative 38, 150 days was Rosh Hashanah, and that was September that year. Last year, it was September 18th. And so this year it's coming early, but September 18th was the exact days, 150 days of the peak of the flood. And, Ginsburg dies. So that was a big event, but not really just yet. Because, see, the death of Ginsburg is going to ultimately lead to the overturning of Roe versus Wade, but she was a big proponent of it. So that's why her going away, Amy coming in, ultimately is going to lead. And, we don't see it today. Okay. But in the short order, whether a few more months, couple more years, we're going to see that event of Ginsburg ends up leading to, with Amy coming in, ends up leading to the Supreme Court and the whole overturning of Roe versus Wade. But that, I believe, is going to come in the new era. So, all that again starts within a few days, starts here next week. So, when that event happens, we'll soon see. But, child sacrifice was, or animal sacrifice was a big thing, in the time of Israel, right, years ago. And now, evil doesn't do animal sacrifice; it's child sacrifice, right? And so, the prophetic word on this is important. Why is God? One of the main reasons God is extremely upset, probably the main reason he's upset, is because of the murder of the children, right? That is a number, aside from us turning away from him and the churches and everything else. It's the fact that it's the murder of the kids. That's the number one reason, and then the big excuse for the women is, women's rights. Okay, this is not my word. The word of God is women's rights are nothing more. For women's right to abortion, are nothing more than an excuse for murder. Period. Not my words, the word of a prophet from God. Okay. So that's the whole deal. This has to be overturned, and it will be overturned. You just saw what happened in Texas right now. So the tide is turning. This past week, Texas voted, I think, 6 weeks. You can sue anybody and everybody, anything after 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So the tide's turning.
I want to remind people, these slides, we are just hitting a few of these slides. There's over 70 slides in this beautiful presentation you've put together. I'm going to put the link right below this video, wherever you're watching this online, and the link is going to be right below. Go and get Bo's slides. They're provided 100% for free. You can see the amount of time, Bo, I can only imagine the time it takes you to make these things, but they are beautiful, and this whole slide presentation, this is the story from start to finish, and Bo walks you through everything. You can go back to prior interviews where we've covered some of the other slides in a little bit more detail. But if you want to see everything in here, there's even Bo puts links in here where you can watch YouTube videos with little clips.
You're sorry to interrupt, Nova. Yeah, so we watched this Kim Clement prophecy the other day. If it's possible in your end, you can play there's another prophecy I just put up, and there was some Sid Roth from 9 years ago. That was about the dollar. It's actually interesting. It's on page 14. If you have time, want to play that one, you can check that out.
Approximately a year or so ago, I was sitting on the couch. I thought I had fallen asleep, when in reality I was in a vision, an open vision. I have a large screen television in my living room. I was sitting on the couch watching television, and again I thought I was dreaming. As I watched, there was a weather broadcast that was on television, and there was a news anchor who said, the most amazing thing is going on right now. It's tragic, and they were building this news broadcast around this event. And he said, normally hurricanes hit on the coastal lines. He said, but there is a hurricane that seems to be spreading down or coming across the heartland of America. At that point, he showed a satellite image of America, and I was horrified as I watched a storm covering from the northern border to the southern border, from east to west, as this massive storm with the eye right over the center of America, a hurricane coming across the center of America. This news reporter in the eye of the storm, as you would see in a hurricane, the wind is blowing violently and they're being tossed to and fro. He said, this is the most amazing thing, I don't understand it. This is not a natural storm. That was his words. He said, this isn't normal. He said, look at what it's raining. And he reached down on the ground and he's picking up and he holds in his hand a fist of $1 bills. He said, this isn't natural. It's raining dollar bills. And the anchor and this correspondent went back and forth about the meaning of this dollar bills. He said, I don't understand. It's almost like they're worthless. They're worthless. It was raining dollars. About that time, it came back to the anchor. He said, ladies and gentlemen, another tragedy has hit America. He said, right in the heartland of America on the New Madrid Fault, a major earthquake has just hit, and immediately pictures of devastation began to pop up all over America, the heartland of America, along the New Madrid Fault, as earthquakes cause entire cities to crumble. I saw the incredible changes in the prices of currency. I saw silver, not gold, but I saw silver begin to drastically increase in value. Not gold, but silver.
Go ahead.
I saw with that riots begin to break out. Major cities all over America broke out in riots. People were rioting in the streets, and on the sign is, give us our entitlements. I mean, it looked like civil war within our borders, but it was all over the issue of the devaluing of money. And then, Sid, immediately I was caught up and I was sitting in a room with world leaders. In this meeting, these world leaders were talking about how to devalue the currency of America by buying oil with another currency. And somehow or another that would drive down the value of the American dollar.
You tell the people that when they see the abundance of rain, it shall mark an abundance that shall begin to flood my people in a way that they've not seen, as there shall be great transfers of wealth, revaluing of currency, a change of currency. The value of gold and silver shall arise in the earth, as abundance shall be released into the hands of my people in a way that you've not seen before. But watch very closely. I said to you, and I say it to you again, this time of justice, this time of righteousness, that the heavens are opening with the abundance of rain, and the mountains that are blowing their tops, and the ground that shall shake and open, because things are opening, and I'm doing it, says the Lord, for the children. Because they will not have to live in socialism or unrighteousness. This is not the future that I have declared shall be this decade, or for the future of your children, says the living God.
Perfect. Well, there you go, everybody. That's, if you want to watch that video for yourself, click that link. It's on slide 14 of Bo's slide deck here. Absolutely incredible. It's coming. It's coming. So
right. And this
ready.
prophecy was of 9 years ago, and it literally describes what just happened and also what's about to happen as well, too. So it's rather incredible how how all prophecy is just coming together, and we're living in these times right now. And so it's just, and the wild part is we are just about to step into this new year here with September coming on, into play here, the September 6th. So all I see is that it's just, I sure hope people have listened to our interviews in the past, Noah. They've prepared. So they've listened, they've heard, and they've acted. In other words, they've prepared. They've done things to prepare themselves and their families, because, what's the point of listening to all this and just doing nothing? Yeah, you'll be informed, but, do you have food and water? Do you have extra 2 weeks of food and water in your house? I know I do. Right.
Very important.
Do you have precious metals? I do. Right. And so none of this is telling you what to do. It's just telling you what I've done. I'm sure what you've done, Noah, as well too. I'm sure you prepared, right? Because you have a family. So
absolutely.
It's prophetically, in the Bible, there's the 10 virgins, right? 10, 5 of them consistently have the oil, have their lamps have full of oil, ready to go at any time, right? There's a and then the other 5 did nothing. So which one are you?
Right.
Which one are you?
Well, Bo, I took us back to those slides, but now I want to get back to Bitcoin. You were telling us to continue to prepare and take action. You run a service on this, and I always like to mention this to people, and I always like to say this, and I just love this the way you say it, Bo, that you everything you do out here is for free. You provide these interviews for free, the slides are for free, but for those people, and everyone loves to hear what Bo's thoughts are on cryptocurrency and not even just Bitcoin, some of these other coins that are on this slide here. You got about 9 or 10 different ones. Everyone always wants to hear what you have to say, where you think we're going. And so, Bo, I don't know if you want to give just a brief summary of where you think we are in the cycles, and then tell them if they want those additional details, the service you provide and who that might be for.
Right. So what I can say is this, Noah. The presentation I've done is a presentation that I've done with my heart. Much of it is prophetic from what I get and more so what prophets get. I put all the pieces together. You can make a book out of this stuff. And guess what? It's free. Okay. And it's a look 10 years into the future. Okay. So all of this is free. I do this because I love God. I love Jesus, and I love the Holy Spirit, and I do all these things to wake the church, wake the people up, and I'm showing you how accurate God is. If I ever screw up, it's me screwing up, me doing something wrong, a calculation wrong, but God does not make mistakes. But I've been able to find, and looking through what he shows me, the accuracy has been rather crazy on many, as you know of the dates. It's been kind of mind-boggling. A lot of the points that just hit to the mark. It's been incredible. Okay. So that's what I can say. I offer a service to people who are looking to profit financially by knowing some of the critical dates for Bitcoin or gold or silver into the future. People are interested in using, knowing the cycles, the daily cycle patterns for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. The Bitcoin index, we provide that. But those are for people who are knowledgeable in cryptocurrencies, understand how to buy and sell, and looking to get different coins, and really want to be actively involved. Our Bitcoin index gives you all that. And I've been doing this since Bitcoin was $400. That year and a half, it's been incredible. Since July, the pattern itself for Bitcoin, as you know, because you get it, the patterns have nailed every single turn, like nine of nine turns to the day since July. So we've had every single turn so far. So now we are waiting for Bitcoin to make its next vertical leap forward, and we're almost there. That's our chart. Actually, that's what the viewers get. I blocked out a chunk of it, but as you know, that was one of the updates from beginning of July. We knew that the bottom comes in July 20th, and the up cycle was supposed to resume on July 22nd. Well, perfect. It's exactly what happened, because life replays itself. Cycles replay themselves, and we knew exactly where to look, and that's exactly what's happened. Bitcoin's got a very powerful year coming. We've only started. If you think the prices are expensive right now, well, you ain't seen anything yet. Wait till you see what's coming. So this year is going to be awesome, but then awesome is followed by a huge crash. So that's how Bitcoin operates. If you're looking to get the patterns, want to get out before the big crash, that's what I'm looking to do as well. Bitcoin's got a lot of movement still forward, and it's ultimately going to be the granddaddy of all the cryptocurrencies. But if you look at the chart there on 69, there is many coins that are called alternate coins, which I far prefer because their percentage price movements are far greater than that of Bitcoin. If people are interested in getting involved in cryptocurrencies, know what some of the better cryptocurrencies are, the alternate coins. If you're looking to know when to get in, or when to get out, we have the patterns for that. There's a code there, WLT, We Love Trump 49, and that will reduce your cost down to half for a 14-day trial for anybody interested. But otherwise, just if you don't want to get involved in cryptocurrencies, go buy gold and silver. That's the easy way to do it because you're holding it. But all I can say about gold and silver is if you think you're buying, if you go, oh, I've got gold, I've got silver, I got SLV, GLD, you got nothing. Because if it's not in your hand, you got nothing.
In your own possession.
In your own possession, which means physical gold and physical silver. If you have money tied up in silver or gold on the exchanges because you think that's what you've got, just know that you own a paper representation of it, nothing more. So that's what I can tell you about gold and silver. We're stepping into a new economy, a new financial system that's not based on paper. So if you've got silver represented as paper, you don't got money that will be money in the new financial system.
That's right. Yeah, very, very good point, Bo, for everyone to understand that. Well, Bo, you're right. I am a subscriber of your Bitcoin index, and I love it. And you always tell people that if you just go buy some Bitcoin if you want, but if you want the more detailed info for the traders out there, this Bitcoin index is great. I'll tell people I'm not a trader, but I love getting your updates. I don't trade in and out, but I love to read when you say something's coming. Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? I have not sold any of my cryptocurrencies. I buy them and I hold them, but I like to watch what Bo's saying, and I like to know that, hey, we might be in for a down month here coming up. Maybe I'll hold off and buy some at the bottom of that, or maybe it's about to go up and I need to buy a little extra right now. So I'm not a trader, but I still love it. So if that's you,
and that's the thing is that's exactly that's the best way to be in cryptocurrencies. Many times is just to hodl or just to hold it. So you're right, because if you bought when it was $1 or $2 or $100 or $500 or 10,000, holding it even on this crash, you're still massively up. So you're right. It's the best thing to do is it's one of the best things to get the stronger coins and hold on to them. And that is a great way to go. There's only one issue on that fact is that, Bitcoin typically runs a 4-year cycle when we're in the 4th year. So what ends up happening is on those when that 4th year completes, that's important to have the cycle. When the 4th year completes, you usually get a big drop. I ran the patterns and the Fibonacci patterns on this, and the problem is on this drop that's coming, and because we're hitting into the 3rd seal of Revelation, which would be the financial crash in the monetary system in 2022, Bitcoin could, and I'm not saying it will, but I think there's a really high probability on this crash, it could be 70, 80, or 90% down. Wow. This is going to be a huge crash off this next high. So that there's a big, it's people can do what they want, but there is nothing fun about watching Bitcoin drop 80%, or some of the currencies, drop 70, 80, or 90% in 2022. But I think that's going to happen actually. So, then it's going to go back up again, right? But, but that's why, cycles are nice to know. And that's why you like to have them too, Noah, because it gives you comfort, before an event like that would happen, that there's a huge probability that could happen, and you can, personally decide if you want to take some profits and just sit on the sidelines for a while.
That's what I do exactly. Well, and then I want to cover this briefly too. Every time we talk about this, I get so many emails from people saying, I want to get in, I want to buy some of these coins, but I don't even know where to start. And so a few months ago, Bo, I was I've been telling you about that, and then you and your son actually put together this easy crypto school, and it's just been fantastic for people. Instead of me trying to write back the emails and explain to them how you get started, and because it is complex, you've kind of put this into a modular training system, almost like a university. It's the Easy Crypto School, and you take people through step by step how to get started from step one all the way till the end, and how to do it safe. And that's a big key.
Right. The Easy Crypto School, what I've done over the years, I've basically learned through trial and error, and lots of trial, lots of errors. Errors are costly when you do
Errors mean money. Yes.
Every mistake is an expensive mistake. So I basically created a flow chart of how to avoid mistakes. I gave that to my son, and he's really good with audio, video, and visuals, and creating videos. So he created this whole video system and so he basically roadmapped everything that I did for him and made videos at each step of the way. So it basically shows you how to not screw up. So, how to start linking your bank account to an exchange, how to move coins around, how to get the coins you want to end up getting, and ultimately once you have the coins you want, how to store them safely. So there's basically about 7 steps within the process to ultimately end up with storing everything safely. So for, if you use that code, we love Trump, WT39, for $39, you can basically have all the steps to not screw up, and which is kind of huge. So,
that's fantastic.
So, and those are people literally don't know how to, get involved in cryptocurrencies. So for $39, you can learn how to get involved in cryptocurrencies. And the most important thing is, is to avoid screwing up. And then lastly, how to store the coins safely, because that really is the essence of everything. If you don't have them stored safely, they're really not yours. So you need to understand that. So it's like if they're stored safely, then they're yours. Kind of like having silver and gold. If you have it in your possession, they're yours. So that's the essence of being involved in cryptocurrencies, is to do things correctly.
Perfect. Well, Bo, I want to thank you for your time today. We've gone through stuff really quick. This has really been more of an update video, because we are in that critical point. We've just passed the tipping point. You've been telling us about that protractor. We just passed the 90-degree point. We're heading into the season of fall. It just seems like we are right on the edge. Everything's happening. So I wanted to have you on today. I wanted to have you on before that September 6th date. I want to give you the last word. Bo, go ahead and wrap it up for us. What do you want to leave people with, and what should people be watching for here in the next few days?
I can just finish with, we're at a point in time where, we've talked enough, we've said enough things, and people are either listening or not listening. They've either prepared or they've not prepared. So just know that when calamities come upon the world, we're going to see a lot of incredible shifts start here, potentially, I'm thinking in September. Know that God is in charge. God the Father, his son Jesus Christ, and it's the Holy Spirit. They're in control. This story's been written for thousands of years already. So God has not forsaken us, not abandoned us, but he is a loving God, but he's love and he's judge. And he's a little pissed right now, considering what the world has been doing for all this time, and so we've talked about reasons why he's so upset. But, because he's upset, he's also a loving God. He created us. He wants to wake us up. So he's going to do everything he can to wake us up before the return of his son. So, in the meantime, I hope people have listened. I hope they've, they've heard what we're saying. I hope they've taken action and prepared. And if you have done those things, then just know that, the glory of God is coming. God the Father is in complete control. He knows, what he's doing, and, he's not going to forsake us. But also, it's our job to pray to him because, he loves us, but, we have to love him back. And so that's what I can say. We are in biblical times. People are trying to find all these answers, but the answers, are within us when we pray. I've done I think a very thorough job, as best I can, done to show people what's coming here into the future. Look into those slides. There's more information, about what's coming in the years ahead. There's a ton of information in there. But it all starts where, God acts, God moves his hand. Vengeance, the glory, it comes upon the earth. And, the key here is the rise of his kingdom into the new era. And so November is going to be a huge point in our world. I promise you, November is going to be really powerful, but October is going to be, a lead up into that is going to be incredible too. And then September, this month, starts it all. So September, into October, just know that the boiling, pressure keeps building and building and building for what's coming here in November. And in November, I think, with Goliath have fallen flat on his face, I don't know what that means, but I'm telling you, it's going to be wild, because the Kim Clement prophecy states that in Christmas or in winter season, which would be, starting the 21st or 22nd of December, it says, I, meaning God, will make you, his church, happy. So what the heck just happened in November?
That's right, hypnotic November.
Because we're not happy right now for what's going on in the world, right? So I will make you happy. So if we're happy, you have to understand the other side's destroyed, freaking out, okay? Fallen. So they fall and fall. I tell you, these things have been prophesied. And God's word will not go void. I repeat, God's word will not go void. He's a loving Father, but he's love and he's judge. Thank you, Noah.
And that is why we love having Bo on, that you would leave us with that kind of a summary, Bo. Fantastic. Thank you so much. We'll have you on again soon when we're even farther into the protractor, and we're going to be watching for these things to come to pass. So, Bo, thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on the Daily Truth Report, and we'll see you next time.